And a good morning to everybody. Paul Gabala along with some very special guests. It is SCS Live with Superintendent Dorsey Hopson and Board Vice Chairman Mr. Kevin Woods. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning, Paul.
And I'll tell you what, the day before the storm, we're going to get to that.
It just sounds like every day.
I'm going to tell you what, it has been a rough winter. Listen, listeners, you can chime in as well with our gentlemen. Facebook us right now or tweet us at SCSK12 Unified. Want to start, I guess, and we're getting questions already, Superintendent and Mr. Woods. We are already getting questions. The district has... Boy, we have really had to contend with a lot of bad winter weather this year. Possibly, as I just mentioned, if you were listening, more sleet and snow tomorrow. How is that affecting the school calendar?
Well, good morning, Paul. Good morning, listeners. Dealing with the weather has been challenging, to say the least. Essentially what we do, just so you know and so the listeners know, we start monitoring the streets at about 2:45 in the morning, and I get an update every 30 minutes or so. And the purpose of the updates is to see whether or not the driving conditions are safe. Once we make a determination that they're not safe and we call school off, that leads to a whole another set of issues, particularly around making sure our kids have enough instructional time. We look at that and we balance, what happens to these kids and their parents. Can they get off work and things of that nature? So it's just really been challenging. But I want to thank our board and really the community for being understanding, because this has been a tough year. But specifically to your question, we have days built into our schedule such that I think there's about 12 days in all that we wouldn't have to make up if we don't want to. But I think we'll be talking to the board about whether or not we want to make those days up, because at the end of the day, Paul, our kids are missing valuable instructional time. So we've got two different things we're working on now. Do we extend the school day between now and April so the kids can capture some of this lost time? And then B, if not, do we just make up some of the days on the back end? So we'll be recommending something to the board here in the next few days.
I think the big question is if there is some makeup, and the parents out there and the kids are wondering, would spring break be affected?
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't fix it over the spring break. The alternatives we're talking about now, Paul, we share with the board a little bit, is do we extend by an hour for a few weeks leading up to the TCAP test, or do we just make them up on the back end at the end of the year?
And that's the thing that we're talking about, not just the daily lesson plans, but we use this time in the classroom. I'm talking about the teachers use this time to help prepare the students for TCAP. And because of the weather situations and having to call school off, that's been very, very difficult to gain any kind of traction.
I think more important than just the TCAP, which obviously is a huge accountability tool. We missed about 28 hours of instructional time due to the weather. If we extended the day for a few weeks, we could probably recapture about 13 hours of instructional time. So the balancing test just becomes, what does that do to families? If you're a teacher and you are now have to stay at work till 5:15, what does that do to your? So just a whole myriad of issues that we're dealing with. But we will always be guided by what we think is best for kids.
And the other thing, it has affected teachers. I know that we were supposed to have a big professional development day during one of the storms, and I've lost track of which storm it was, to be frank with you. But I know that they're going to be makeup days for that professional development this Saturday and the 14th, I believe.
That's correct.
As well. And this is a very important professional development. If you guys wanted to chime in, because we had her in the last time we had the show was Miss Ramirez, the Chief Academic Officer, and it's really, this professional development is very important for teachers because it's sort of a kickoff to our focus on literacy.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
Right, and I think that's important. I know we've gotten a lot of calls from our teachers about the makeup days, and I think Superintendent Hopson and Dr. Ramirez are very understanding of the fact with spring break coming up that they wanted to give the teachers options. So they split it up into 2 days. You know, I got a lot of friends in this education arena, and so I can sometimes be a little candid with them when they're calling me. And I was pretty clear that, you know, I love you guys, but you guys have gotten a number of days off during the snowstorms, and this literacy work could not be more important to the board. It's one of the things that we asked Superintendent Hopson early on when he came on board was that make literacy a key component of your strategic plan, and he's responded without question in a meaningful way. And I think this is going to be a kickoff to share all of our teachers how important literacy is to this district. You know, you cannot just focus on an hour of literacy and expect to get the gains that we want to get. You got to emphasize literacy instructions across all spectrums of the academic day, and I think that's what the focus is going to be. With over 7,000 teachers in the district, we got to make sure that they're all on board, and I'm sure Superintendent Hopson may want to speak a little more to the actual plan, but I think it's important that all teachers engage in a meaningful way at these upcoming sessions.
Yeah, and I want to just thank our teachers in advance for, you know, their time and their collective wisdom and really getting on board with this. I think that, you know, the other end of the spectrum was over at White Station Elementary School yesterday, and the teachers were really excited about the upcoming District Learning Day. I think there were about 6 teachers over there who were actually presenting, and, you know, the general consensus was, hey, you know, we understand, you know, that you know, this had to be moved to a Saturday because of weather, but I think everybody understands this is such important work that I've gotten more positive feedback than negative. So again, I want to our teachers who, you know, are frustrated because of a Saturday, you know, I just asked them to roll up their sleeves with us, and this work is so important. I'll be there. So just if nothing else, for support and to learn as well. So couldn't be more important work, and we look forward to moving the district forward with this very aggressive literacy plan.
Well, I would think, and obviously I just speak for myself, but as a teacher, literacy is so important, especially in what we teach here in broadcasting, that this is, to me, it is a worthwhile project. It's a project that's needed. I mean, I see the evidence of it in classes, that we need a new approach, a different approach to reach all these children. There's no doubt about that. All right. Wanted to move on. It hasn't gotten a lot of press, but this is a very important story. The district, the school board, I know, Mr. Woods, that you and your fellow members talked about this, I think, during the last school board meeting, about the state of Tennessee and discussions over state funding or the lack of state funding. And this is a dispute, I believe, that not only does exist not only here, but in a number of school districts across the state of Tennessee. First of all, tell us what the contention is.
Well, this issue affects not just Shelby County, but actually affects all districts, school districts across the entire state. It's estimated that the state underfunds BEP, or the school formula for funding education, to the tune of about $500 million. When you amortize that over large urban districts such as Memphis, Chattanooga, Nashville, and Knoxville, you're talking about substantial dollars that can be infused in the system and make a meaningful impact. I think we've estimated that about $100 million would be, if it was fully funded, would be due to Shelby County. And so with that in mind, we're simply leaving all options on the table to make it clear to the state that our teachers expect more. We struggle with balancing our budget every year. We struggle with trying to communicate to teachers that we want to give you more. We struggle with saying we want to make sure all resources are making it to the school, yet trying to make sure that we run an efficient central office. But it takes resources to do so. You have a state who often argue that we can't raise taxes, or we're a state that don't raise taxes. But ultimately, as Mayor Luttrell indicated when he was talking about the funding of health care, it's ultimately somebody got to pay the tab. And either we can take a stand at the state level to support education across all districts, or we have to use all resources that we have available to us, including the possibility of filing a lawsuit. And so I think the board spoke clearly, unanimously at the last meeting, is that we want to keep all options open, and we're going to partner with other large districts across the state and say let's support education, and we expect to give the state a chance to respond in a meaningful way.
I would think there's a bit of some frustration among school board members where the state has, and rightfully so, said, listen, we got to build a better education system, but at the same time they're going, well, we're going to do it with less money.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty fascinating to think that we can build a system. And again, I want to be clear, we do have a lot of support, especially from our Shelby County delegation, on how to tackle a lot of the issues that we're facing here in Shelby County. Listen, we continue to be in a period of declining enrollment. Superintendent Hopson is doing everything he can to build schools that can attract new families into the school system. Partnering with other organizations across the county to make sure that we can be the best school system we possibly can. But in order to attract talent, in order to have the best leaders and best teachers in our school system, you got to pay them. We have no taxing authority, and so if the state isn't supporting us, we have to lobby to our local county commission and say, we need more money. And so it's not easy being in that room knowing that they have the same struggles of trying to figure out how to fund education. And so we need our state to step up and do the right thing. And I would be remiss not to give shout out to my colleagues, Chris Caldwell, who has made this his rallying cry over the past year. Mm-hmm. Our board chair, Ms. Teresa Jones, have made it clear that me being a co-chair of the legislative committee here, that she expects us to be very focused on getting us more support for our BEP formula, and I've answered the call.
As I mentioned at the top of this topic is the fact that Shelby County is not the only one that is concerned about this. I think Davidson, Knoxville School District is as well, along with others. Have you talked to the other school districts about maybe forming this union and then going ahead with a lawsuit if the state doesn't listen?
Well, it's already built in. So again, we're part of CLASS, which is a coalition of large school systems. And so basically, it's interesting. Any legislation that we support with CLASS has to have the support of all of the large systems. Nashville has a vote coming up next week and if they pass the resolution, then that will be all members of CLASS would have agreed to look into a possible litigation brought against the state. Like I said, we're Shelby County, we've been dealing with lawsuits for a long time since I've been on the board. It's not something that we get excited about, but we do have a good track record when it comes to knowing when we're on the right side of the law and knowing that we have to stand up for the teachers and students of our district. And so it's not something that we want to have to do, but I'm confident that the state will respond in a meaningful way. But ultimately, we have to find ways to find additional resources for the school system.
And the way that plays out on the local level, Paul, is that, obviously we receive our funding from the state and from the county. The city of Memphis no longer contributes. So, when you're in a state of declining enrollment, ASD schools, more charter schools, the revenue just is not there. And, you won't hear us whining about it. We do what we need to do every year to balance a budget. But at some point, we have these lofty goals and expectations, and they require investments. So, we hope that, one of the things that may come out of this lawsuit may be kind of a willingness, if not from the state, at least from our county commission, to invest more in these kids. Because, the reality is that the kids who live in inner city Memphis are not just some of the poorest kids in Shelby County in the state, but in the nation. And when you're dealing with so many challenges and issues that these kids bring to the schoolhouse every day, it just requires more support. So we hope that people will see that and essentially put their money where their mouths are.
Absolutely.
7:33 on 88.5. And C19, you are listening and watching to SCS Live with Superintendent Dorsey Hopson and Board Vice Chairman Kevin Woods. If you have a question, you can Facebook us or tweet us at SCSK12 Unified. Exciting day tomorrow. Yeah, exciting day tomorrow at Cummings Elementary. It's the celebration and kickoff of the 80, 90, 100 strategic plan. I'm handing off to you, Superintendent, on this one.
Well, unless there are 5 inches of snow covering.
You'll be okay tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, we're very excited about tomorrow, Paul. You know, we at the board's direction adopted some very ambitious goals about a year ago, and then we spent a year putting together a strategic plan. So we're just going to unveil the strategic plan tomorrow in a very positive and exciting way. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to help support. K97 is going to be out to help support, and we've invited the mayors. Should just be a wonderful event, and we just want to focus and highlight the importance of this plan, but then also let the world know that Cummings K-8 school is one of our hidden gems and jewels. They're actually one of our Title I distinguished schools. So it should be a very, very exciting day today. And I'll just tell you, Paul, anytime that we get a chance to spend meaningful time in schools, it's always exciting. You know, yesterday we had the Read Across America. Yeah, I got to spend some time over at Sheffield. I also got to spend some time over at White Station Elementary School, and then also got to spend some time, Paul, just want to send them a quick shout out to at the Avon School. And for those of you who don't know, we educate special needs kids from the ages of 18 to 22 at this school. Focus on life skills, you know, focus on continuing education. And just Ms. McKissick-Larry and her staff, just what they're doing and what they have done over the years is nothing short of remarkable, and they're doing God's work. Just want to give them a shout out.
All righty. I want to take this time maybe to get some of the questions in that we're getting from some of our listeners. And this came from somebody I was talking to, and they said, thank goodness we're getting the money from the city of Memphis. And we talked about it during the last show about the agreement, which came before, was done with mediation between the school board and, well, the administration, Superintendent Hopson, and the city of Memphis. The question is, we're getting that money in. Where will is that money going to be earmarked for any specific programs here in Shelby County Schools?
Yeah, what we've asked the board to do is to earmark that money to fund the work that's going on in the I-Zone, Paul. I mean, as you know, the grants, the school improvement grants will be ending this year, so we have to figure out a way to sustain that work, and that's one of the strategies we'll be trying to employ to get the work going, or to keep the work going.
Okay, good. All right. A couple of other things we want to pass along, and I don't know if this was specific about next year. I'm not sure, but this was on Twitter. Have the start times been changed yet for next year? I don't believe we've addressed that.
No, they haven't, Paul. We really have received all the data back from surveys, from principals, and from teachers, and we'll be notifying the board in March. But the reality is that when we looked at everything, Paul, that it seems like the consensus amongst teachers and parents and principals, when we look at the options, are to just keep things the way they are. So we'll be laying it out for the board. You know, we talked about it several months ago, the different prices, but then when you start, you know, kind of juxtaposing and changing schedules around, I think what we heard mostly from the school-based people were, you know, we don't want to change again for a third straight year, but we're still trying to cull that information, and we'll present it to the board in March.
And Paul, the motivation from this board, our chair, and I was part of that conversation as well, that very public discussion, was that we wanted to let parents know that we heard them loud and clear when the early start times for schools, and what we simply asked, what our chair asked of the superintendent and his administration, was to simply look into it, bring back data, and we'll make a decision on it. Some of the surrounding school districts have had that debate as well, a very lively debate.
Exactly.
And ultimately, what you find out is that you're gonna have a split there, and then what the district has to weigh in on is does the cost justify making that decision. And again, you're talking about 3 years in a row where we would have had to have changed school times. And so I would think that the pulse of the board would be let's not go down that road just yet, simply because of the cost associated with it and the fatigue associated with the constant of changing times.
All right, let's keep on Twitter here. We've got some great questions. Okay. This one to Kevin. How do I find out who my board member is?
Very good question. First of all, shout out to our communication teams with Twitter. I noticed that you guys have over 17,000 followers now. I like to think that part of this show is accredited for 16,000 at least for this show here. But you guys have definitely been creative in how you engage with your followers, especially students, especially during snow days. It's been pretty fun to watch. But how do you find out your board members? Obviously, you can go to our website. It has a link to the board members there, and it will indicate to you what area they represent, as well as his or her contact information. We have 9 board members representing different geographical areas across the county.
SCSK12.org. Go ahead and, SCSK12.org. That's right. Okay, here's another question. I have a child, and this is from Twitter. I have a child at A.B. Hill. Is the school consolidation going to affect my child because of all the new kids coming in?
I think that if the board votes to make A.B. Hill an I-Zone school and consolidates it with Lincoln, it'll have a positive effect on all the kids at A.B. Hill, namely because the I-Zone has demonstrated remarkable results. We do a few things and doing very well that have led to significant gains in student achievement, and we expect the same thing to happen at A.B. Hill.
Much more hands-on at the I-Zone, many more resources at the I-Zone, right?
Exactly. That's it. That's correct.
Well, the biggest resource is the fact that you typically find outstanding leaders and great teachers, and what you see is the hallmark of great education. And so I think you'll see an infusion of new talent at those institutions.
All right. A couple of other things that certainly are already in the works, but the general choice transfer process, maybe you gentlemen want to talk a little bit about that, inform the parents about what kind of choices they do have out there.
Sure. I think from February 23rd until April the 3rd, parents just essentially have a right to apply to go to any school that has openings. And we have such a huge number of students on general choice transfers. It's been a remarkably successful program, and it just shows that we have some very involved parents who want the best for their kids. So if you visit the website, get the step-by-step processes, it's very simple, and we want to make sure parents don't let that time pass by if they're interested in transferring.
You know, that's the thing. I don't know if is it a first come, first serve?
Yes.
It is.
It
so,
is.
You know, procrastination does not help you in this case, does it?
Exactly.
And you know, it's sort of neat because I went and navigated through the site. I guess it was this weekend. And what I liked about it is that it listed all the schools in the district, and I don't know who did the job, but it was a great job. But they listed where there were plenty of seats available and where you better get writing and applying because there aren't too many seats available.
Exactly.
So it was a great little gauge there that they put in there in the school district website.
Absolutely.
To tell parents about that. Other thing is, and we're so happy that we do have pre-K, but pre-K enrollment began on Monday, in fact.
Yes. So the process, obviously kids start by getting screened, and then there's a whole litany of things that they do to get in the program. And let me just reiterate, Paul, the importance of going through this process, because interestingly we still have schools now that have pre-K classes that don't fill up. And when you talk about some of these schools and some of these communities where pre-K would be such a huge benefit, perhaps we're not doing a good enough job getting the word out. So we want to make sure our parents and families know that if you are zoned to a school and you have a 4-year-old and that school has voluntary pre-K like many of the schools do, please go through the process because it's so much better for a child to be in a pre-K classroom as opposed to being at home or being in a daycare center. And those pre-K classes are free as well. So I want to encourage parents to go down that road.
Excellent. 7:42 on 88.5. We've got just a few minutes left here on SCS Live with Mr. Woods and Mr. Hopson. And I think right now might be time for some kudos out there, guys.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what we said. Want to give Sheffield Elementary a special shout out. Got a chance to go read over there yesterday. Want to give Mayor Luttrell a huge shout out. He came over and read to the students yesterday, and that was they really enjoyed that. Want to give a shout out to my good friend David Stevens, superintendent over at Bartlett. A tough game last night.
Yeah.
Bartlett and Overton. He sent me a text last night and said we won. So
you had to dig it in a little bit, didn't you? I saw him there last night. Yeah.
And then finally, Craigmont, our girls team at Craigmont, I believe they won.
They beat Crockett County 69-55. So Coach Anderson out at Craigmont, been there a long time, heading back to the state.
There we go. Go Craigmont.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off Superintendent Hopson recognizing, the athletic achievements of throughout the district, at the last board meeting, we were able to recognize that some of those accomplishments, recognize the principals as well. I do want to let the principals know whether students were recognized for arts. I think we may have forgot to recognize the principals as well. And I do know that Principal Pettigrew from Colonial was there, and so we want to give him a big shout out. We know what a big supporter he is of the district and what great work he's doing over at Colonial, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned him.
Absolutely.
Also, Principal Nelson at Peabody and Principal Askew at Brewster. Board member Orgel and I have been on this road show with our communication team, interviewing anybody who's willing to sit down with us for about half an hour. And the strategy there, if there's a strategy, is to give us a chance to talk to people who want to talk about public education. And so we're taking that opportunity to just have a conversation with members of the public, school leaders as well. And so some of the schools have been kind enough to allow us to have those conversations at their institution, so we wanted to give them a quick shout out.
That's an interesting perspective because, and I'd like to ask you, both of you guys, about this, is that you go to these schools, and what do you get out of going to those schools? I mean,
for me,
what do you learn that helps maybe set policy or change things?
One of the things I'm always looking to do, Paul, is to really grasp what great teaching looks like. When I go to any school, I usually ask the principal, I want to go to 3 classrooms, and we'll go in, we'll kind of do a mock what the teaching rubric looks like, and then after we visit the classes, we'll talk about what we saw, what our wonderings were, what our noticings were, and then we'll just debrief. So I think that just being in the classroom to learn more about great teaching is one thing, but I also think there's something about connecting with students. We do all this stuff, Paul. We do snow days, budgets, lawsuits, and all that, and then it just wears you out. But when you get a chance to go in a class and read the kids and spend time with the kids and see, the life, the love of learning starting to develop in their little eyes, I mean, it keeps me going. So that's obviously the highlight of any day that I have where I get a chance to go visit schools.
I can understand that, Kevin.
Well, that's truly the highlight, is seeing, the folks that we have an impact on. But in addition to that, all the folks that's making it happen. When we went to Peabody yesterday, you see the smiling faces on the receptionists and the front desk folks. You see a clean facility. You see people that are working hard each and every day. And quite honestly, that it puts everything in perspective, that the decisions that Superintendent Hopson has been tasked to make, the board is voting on, has an impact that cascades throughout this community. And so it definitely makes you appreciate the responsibility that we've been tasked with.
All righty. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I know it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. We've got the big kickoff and then maybe the other winter storm coming in.
Well, I want to just add real quick to that, Paul. The board has that responsibility off to Superintendent Hopson to make
Kevin,
a decision.
are you actually driving out there on the street?
At
3 in the morning.
I like to let my Facebook followers think that that's the case, but we give that responsibility to Superintendent Hopson because I will tell you that the 9 board members do not agree. He will not please all of us with that decision. And I just want to, all I ask him to do is give me the information first so I can scoop Chief of Staff Porter because he wants to be the first one to break the news. And our commissioner, and our county commissioner, David Reeves, I know he missed not being able to be the first one to break the news on Twitter. So we're having a lot of fun with it. But we will be asking Superintendent to make a decision, and hopefully a quick decision if we see the need to do so.
All righty.
We'll do it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
We'll
see you next month, okay?
Thanks, buddy.
All righty. Hey, you've been listening to SCS Live with Superintendent Dorsey Hopson and Board Vice Chairman, Mr. Kevin Woods, right here on 88.5.